Hey everybody, I'm Connor, that's Doug, and this is the Bethel School District Presents podcast, and we have a fantastic show this week. Today we're talking all about cell phones in school, and there's some great stuff in here.
Last week we had senior Millicent Freeman from Spanaway Lake High School on the show. She was our third co-host, and we chatted with her about all things communications, because that is what she's going to head on to after high school, a degree in the communicative arts, and we had a great conversation. She is actually our producer this week. She recorded and produced two amazing interviews that you're going to hear today, and these conversations cover so much ground, from school cell phone policy to cyberbullying, screen addiction, and a whole lot more. But before we get started, as always, Connor, we have to have a little bit of useless trivia.
Yes, sir, we do, but to keep us on this week's topic, we're coming up with trivia specifically based on cell phones, and I will get us started. Did you know the average smartphone user touches their phone about 2,600 times a day? And heavy users can exceed 5,400. That's roughly the same number of taps a woodpecker makes, except a woodpecker is actually getting something done and not looking up photos of dogs wearing hats like Doug does.
That is a disturbing piece of trivia. 5,000 is a lot. My goodness. Well, I went a little farther back, pre-smartphone. My useless trivia is actually about the very first cell phone call that was ever made. It was April 3rd, 1973, which is way earlier than I would have thought. The man's name was Martin Cooper, and he was the head of communications. Hey, another communications job there for Millicent. Head of communications at Motorola, and he went to the streets of New York City with his new cell phone. It was 2.5 pounds, about a foot high, 1.5 inches wide, 3 inches deep. It was basically like a brick. And his first call was to his counterpart at Motorola's competitor, Bell Labs. And he said, quote, "I'm calling you from a cell phone, but a real cell phone, the personal handheld portable cell phone."
Ooh, that's cold. Love that.
It's fantastic.
All right, that's enough jibber-jabbering for us. Let me introduce our main story this week. And by way of a little background, I should say our district has a guiding cell phone policy. So at every school, principals work with their staff to shape their own version of that policy. So there are differences from school to school. At Spanaway Lake, staff voted on a final policy recently. The basics of it are that students start each class with their cell phones put away. Our producer this week, Millicent, who you might remember from last week's show, found a teacher who voted for the new policy and a teacher who voted against that policy. She interviewed both of them, and we're going to hear from them right now.
That's right. Her first guest is Ryan Baker. He's an AP Language and AP Seminar teacher at Spanaway Lake High School.
You know, Mr. Baker was actually my teacher last year, and I think it's really cool that I get to sit down with you and talk about this. So again, thank you for agreeing to do this with me.
Yeah, super happy to.
Okay, so the first question I have for you is, what made you vote in favor of the implementation of the cell phone policy at SLHS?
At the beginning of the school year, our staff did vote to adopt a consistent and building-wide cell phone policy. I did vote in favor of it, and one of the primary reasons I voted in favor of it is because I know that oftentimes consistent expectations across like a student's day-to-day life typically leads to an easier time following the expectations, and you know, we can get into all the reasons why a cell phone ban in particular is probably the right move for where students are at right now. But the real reason that I voted in favor of it was because I just believe that students thrive when they're able to have consistent expectations. So the idea that every teacher would have the same policy, I thought that might make things easier for students.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember how last year we had like a loose phone policy, but not every teacher would enforce it, or it'd be enforced differently. And I think when that happens, students like carry that idea of, oh, well, this teacher doesn't really care, so I guess this teacher might not really care either. They just have that mindset that carries over to different classes, even if, like in your class, for example, we didn't have our phones, but in some other classes I had, they were more lenient with phones, so I can get where there might be like
students might start doing some mental gymnastics of like, well, if it's okay here, like can I, to your point, like can I get away with it here, or like this teacher seems like pretty relaxed in this way, like does that mean this? They start to like do all these like mental calculations about like what's okay and what's not, as opposed to just focusing on learning.
No, yeah, and I think that's really true. And to continue on that topic, So as you know, we live in like an environment where it's common for dangerous things to happen at school. Unfortunately, we
Sure.
have school violence, school shootings, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And when it came to phone policies, a lot of like concerns and critiques about them were the fact that students might not always have access to their phones in case of an emergency to contact their families and people who care about them. So my question for you is, how do you think our current phone policy can ensure students feel safe and connected with their loved ones during stressful times?
I totally agree with you that, moments of stress and, potential danger are like very stressful. I think thankfully 99% of the time we're not encountering that.
That's true, yeah.
So I think that considering the focus during those times where danger isn't present, like the focus is on learning, I think it makes sense to like optimize our environments for that. And when you have a really addictive technology like cell phones, probably optimization of that environment looks like putting them away. But again, I think that our staff here is pretty empathetic and caring, and I think that in moments where students need flexibility, I think there are ways for them to gain that flexibility.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also feel like, especially with our generation, a part of the addiction comes from the fact that like a lot of us had tablets or our parents' phones in front of us when we were really young.
Yeah.
And like I know they've done studies on it. I can't quote a specific one, but like they talk about how that happening to us contributes to how like so wrapped and like addicted to our phones we are now.
Yeah.
Especially because like probably shouldn't be giving a 4-year-old a phone or anything.
Well, it's like, I don't know how deep into the weeds we want to go here, but like oftentimes I find myself being really upset and saddened by what we've allowed young people to have access to, in the sense that like if we just want to look at social media itself, like social media companies have designed their products to have eyeballs stay on the products. Like they are designed to attract and sustain engagement. They are meant to be, for lack of a better word, addictive. And the idea that we would allow young people whose brains are forming to have virtually unfettered access to that, it saddens me.
It is sad, especially with like this new recent trend of like short form content where it's like 10 seconds long.
Right.
Like,
right.
It doesn't even require your attention span for that long, and it just gets you into like, even I've fallen into loops where I'm just
Same.
like,
Yes.
just scrolling, keep scrolling, and then, oh, an hour's gone.
Exactly.
Time to keep
And
scrolling.
think about this. Like, we have an entire genre of content literally called brain rot. Like, come on, man. What are we doing?
So the next question I have for you is, with the implementation of this policy, what's the change that like you're hoping to see at our school long term, like looking past this year or past this trimester if we want to start small?
So I think that one of the more insidious elements of having like just consistent access to personal technology and like cell phones is like the idea that like oftentimes we, and I'm including myself in this, like we reach for these devices in moments of boredom or uncertainty or to fill space, right?
Yeah.
That makes me think of like all the things that your brain could be doing in those moments that aren't, just engaging with content on your phone. I'm thinking like your brain having a rest, opening up space for creativity, opening up space for curiosity. I'm interested to see if like long term, if we're able to maintain this, no cell phone policy, if those moments where students have just kind of free time with their brains, I'm hoping that maybe we can see increases in engagement just with like course content, but I'm also just really curious to see like what happens in terms of curiosity and creativity and like connection. I guess I'll go for the 3 C's here. Curiosity, creativity, connection, like increased and sustained connection like between students. So I think it could have like really, really positive just impacts on students' brains and also just their ability to connect with their peers. And yeah, I hope that those things we see improvements for sure.
I'm sure you're aware of like the phone policy. You had to like teach it for a couple of days when we got back to school. So my question is, if you can make one addition or alteration to our district's phone policy, what would it be and why?
I only really have my own firsthand experience like in my classroom, just because the vast majority of my time in this building, I'm just in my room with my students, and that's my day, right?
Yeah.
So because I've had such a consistent kind of expectation that I've just kind of held the line with for so long, I haven't had issues with cell phones in my room for like a very long time.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard for me to say what I would have, like what I would change to it, just because
It's solid for you?
it works for me. Yeah. And like, I'm sure that there's a lot of great ideas out in the building about like, tweaks that we can make. And I'm sure tweaks will be made. I don't have a great answer. I'm sorry.
No worries. Have you heard any ideas from other people that you might think like, hey, this might be a nice change? Or...
Consistency. Consistent expectations across the building.
Oh yeah.
There's a difference sometimes between, what's on paper and then the reality of how things play out in the classroom. The more we can merge those things, I think the better off everybody will be.
So you're saying like, as long as every classroom has the same expectation and every student's being held to the same expectation, no matter where they go, it'll be solid.
I think that's a place to strive for. Yeah.
I think so too, because again, if it's like one way in one class and a different way in another class, then it becomes last year where it was like, sometimes you can have your phone, sometimes you can't have your phone.
Yeah.
On a good day, maybe you can have your phone. Like,
Sure.
It's just like inconsistent.
Yeah.
But that is all the questions I have for you. So I want to thank you again for doing this with me.
Of course.
I appreciate your time and your answers.
Yeah, very happy to talk with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Excellent interview, Millicent. And Millicent, as an intrepid journalist, was not satisfied with just showing one side of that story. She also talked to a no voter, Chef Alyssa Mites, who teaches culinary at Spanaway Lake High School.
Chef Mites is actually one of my teachers, again, this time from this year and not like last year with Mr. Baker. So it's, again, nice to be talking with someone who's familiar, someone that I've gotten to know. I really like her a lot. So what made you vote against the implementation of a phone policy at SLHS?
I'm a new teacher, so maybe I don't know any better. Who knows? But my understanding is that when I look around the room and I see kids on their cell phones, if you want to pay attention, you'll put your phone away. I've seen plenty of students do it. If you need to look up stuff on your phone, then at least you have it. I mean, how many kids do I have that don't have charged iPads? No offense to everyone. Y'all haven't figured that one out yet.
That's true.
But it's like, I don't have a charged iPad. Okay. There's no loaners left. Great. Can I look it up on my phone? Well, what am I supposed to say? I need you to do the work, right? If everything's on digital canvas, I need you to have some way to obtain it and utilize it.
And I agree with what you were saying about, like, one way or another, students are going to be on their phone. And I feel like at some point it becomes the student responsibility, too. Because you can only do so much taking away of the phone and talking to their parents. But, like, their grade will reflect on.
I can yell at you all until the cows come home to pay attention to me, but you've seen it in your own class. Obviously, there's a group in the corner that doesn't do that. There's another couple people that can multitask, right? It's like there's people who need to have, like, a fidget spinner. If this is their fidget spinner and they can pay attention to me, they can do the labs right, they can do my assignments correctly, they can get their full points, and they get all their work into me. I'm sorry, guys, but what do I care if they have their phones? Because realistically, I'm getting the work done. They are showing me that they understand the topic by showing me a finished product, or when they're in the middle of their lab, they ask me very specific and pointed questions. So if I take away your phones, all I'm going to have you do is sitting there glaring at me. You guys are just going to be hurt at me. You guys are going to be angry, all that fun stuff.
And since we were talking about distractions earlier in class, I wanted to ask, since you don't agree with the phone policy, what do you think is a better way to eliminate distractions and, like, encourage students to be more active participants in class and to pay attention while still letting them have access to their phones?
Kind of one of the deals I managed to make is that I make a deal with you guys. I make an arrangement. Hey, everyone, we're going to follow some very specific rules. You lock up your phone or you put your phone away. In this case, I like it locked up because I know you're not going to grab it from your bag during labs. You lock it up during a test. You lock it up when I need you to really focus on a project, right?
Yeah, and I think that's definitely helpful with it because I think some students will, like, view their teacher as their enemy and, like, they're like this like oligarchy dictator in their classroom.
It's so funny to be called an op.
Or, like, they're op if we want to be less formal. But when you make, like, those, like, show that understanding and empathy toward the student, I think that can help, especially with, like, students who are, like, more resistant to those kind of things to be willing to do it. And even I've also seen that, like, now, like, maybe, like you said, people will grumble a little bit, but they do it.
Yeah, it's like...
And it works. So,
I've got at least 3 kids in each class that sit there and gripe at me, except for culinary, too. I'll be real with that one. They kind of just got over it. But they gripe at me a little bit, but then they put their phone away. They're focused on their task at hand, and then they're doing better. They're asking me questions, or they're fighting with their teammates. Either one works. I mean, and for the clarification for security, I don't mean as in fist fights. I mean as just an argumentative talking and just kind of getting discussions blown out of proportions because someone doesn't know how to measure sugar.
My next question for you is, despite not being in support of it, have you found any positive benefits that came with the phone policy's implementation?
Yes, regretfully. I mean, not regretfully. There are some good benefits. When we can make an agreement to sit here and say, will you guys lock up your phones at these points and times during class, lab, test, project, whatever, will you put them away when I'm talking? Let me just have your attention for a little while. You guys are more willing, right? It shows more maturity, and it also allows that once the distraction's gone and the cell phone's locked up, for example, for lab, then you guys are more focused on your labs. You're more focused on the project at hand, the food at hand. Well, it also probably helps that you guys really want to eat it afterwards.
Yeah.
So
I like the answer you have for that. My last question for you is, since we were talking about alterations and like alternatives and stuff, if you could make one addition, like one thing to add to our phone policy or one thing to change about it, what would it be and why?
it's almost going to sound like a joke, but I'm serious. If I could have a rechargeable station, the reason why I want rechargeable stations in the rooms is because you guys would be way more willing to put your phones away.
If like
you knew that it was getting
them?
recharged.
Oh.
If you knew that it was getting, like, had a recharge station, or if it had, like, a part where, you could recharge any of your stuff, your headphones, whatever, right? Like, they have one of those in the library. Fun fact, those things cost, like, $3,000, guys.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's why we won't have them in our rooms. So, but if, like, my little lockbox over there could recharge your phones, I guarantee you everyone would be putting it in there.
People would probably ask you to put it in when it's not time.
Yeah,
Just to have
and I'd
your
just
phone
be like, hey,
charged.
y'all just want to put your phone away while I just talk, and then you can get it back in 10 minutes? Okay.
That's true.
I almost guarantee I'd have people putting their phones in there. Wouldn't be asking me for blocks to charge their phone. They'd ask me for blocks to charge their iPads because their iPad's at 1%.
Yeah.
But by goodness, their phones are at 100.
That's true. I think that honestly would be. It would also be like, not only would it be helping both sides here, like now you have our attention. While our phones are taken, we know there's a positive to it, and that's that our phones are charging.
Yeah.
And
that
our
you won't
other
have a
stuff
dead
is charging
phone.
too.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, like you said, it would make people more willing to do it, especially when they know that they're getting something out of it, and it's not just you getting something out of it.
Or it even helps those kids that don't have the best home life, right? Mm-hmm. They need their phone to contact an emergency service. They need their phone to contact someone that needs to get their counselor, their therapist, their case manager, whoever, right? Someone for food, someone for a place to live. Let's have a phone charge station so that those kids have a stable charge to their phone so they know that they can find the information they need.
Yeah, and I think that's important, especially when we remember that we're in a low-income district.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's probably a couple, like, well-off students here, but I know not everyone in the school is always going to go home to having electricity or even having a roof over their heads.
Yeah.
So since we already provide so many resources at school, like we have our SRC, we have our social worker, I think that would also be a good addition, just so that a student has the peace of mind knowing that they can come to school and they can have like access to like electricity and stuff to charge their phones. So when they go somewhere, like their home or anywhere else where they don't have that,
Yeah.
at least maybe their phone is charged, or they just know that, and they have the security of knowing that like school is a place where I can get the stuff I need too. So
Exactly. We want the school to be a place that you guys feel safe.
yeah.
We all do. Every single teacher in here, the admin, everyone, right? Truth be told, the biggest thing, the biggest concern for us in all of our meetings and everything is, are you guys safe? If we are keeping you safe from whatever outside is causing you grief, that's what we want to do. And there is one last thing to that about, if we can go back to like, some negative connotations on phones here real quick, is that you guys have a lot of access to social media on those things. And social media is not nice.
Yeah.
I've heard plenty of times I have kids come up telling me that they're upset because someone somewhere else commented on something and said that they were an idiot or this or this. And it's like, why are you listening to people online? They don't know better. They're just rage baiters. That's all these people. That's all. Anyone that lives on the internet, like almost religiously, they're doing it to make you feel bad. And I hate that, because there's plenty of people out there that just do it just because they think it's a kick to them and they don't realize what damage they're doing to that person. And then on the other end, I get to see someone crumble to pieces, and I have to figure out how to help them. And that's just how life is. So if there's anything I can ask of you guys, just as students, to anyone that listens to this podcast, please, everyone that listens to this, I know there's plenty of you. Please, please, please do not fall victim to the harassment and bullying on social media. They're dumb. They're stupid. They don't know what they're saying. They don't walk in your shoes. They do not live your life. I tell you this, that I hate the phrase I understand when someone's telling me their problems, because no one will truly understand. They aren't you. Unless they walk your shoes, walk your life, live your name, and go down the same path you do, they do not know who you are entirely. So no one can completely understand a person. But you can come to an agreement in terms of understanding to say, like, oh, I see that you're in a rough spot. How can I help you?
That's so good.
Please don't be affected by social media, or at least don't take it to heart as much. Please take what people tell you in person to heart. What people who care about you. If you want a true opinion, go to your favorite teacher and ask them. If you want a true opinion, go to your favorite counselor, ask them. If you're on good terms with your parents, ask them. Some of you, not all of us, are on good terms with your sibling, who's actually more mature. Ask them. Your uncle, someone you trust. If you need an opinion on how to fix something, or if you think something's wrong, or you want the truth, ask someone that loves you. Not because we won't sit there and sugarcoat it. Some people might. But because we will tell you the truth, and we won't sit here and call you an idiot for it. Because your opinions, your thoughts, everything you guys think is valid. You are your own people. Don't let the internet ruin that.
Yep. I want to thank you again for agreeing to do this with me. You had really insightful answers, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Of course, I'm happy to. I mean, you guys can always come see me. I tell you that. You're always welcome in my door until I kick you out because you want food.
That's fair.
This has been a fantastic show. Thank you to producer Millicent Freeman and her guest Ryan Baker and Alyssa Mites. We did go a little bit long this week, Connor. We are over 15 minutes, which means for everybody, the next episode is going to be free.
And that freebie will be our first episode of 2026. We will see you then. Happy holidays, everyone.